I am Jim Sterling, voice of the people, the sanity of a generation. Same as Dark Souls. Voice of the people. People.
What's up, you grogified sons of whores? Dr. Cross here, savior of the known universe and pioneer of all that is holy and good. Today we have a very special video to take a look at. See, Jim Sterling is a fairly successful, pretty famous game journalist who commands a lot of respect in the game journalism industry.
You have every right to say it, and I have every right to call you a fucking asshole and try to find your address and put it out there!
See, listen to all those people cheer while he nods his head that doxing is okay. See, he's loved.
Voice of the people.
He's also well respected for his integrity, such as the time that he said this.
And there's no fucking way I'll be helping to encourage this. I will not pre-order a video game unless there's an actual chance of it selling out, and I will not purchase separately that which ought to be included in the full experience.
And then, just to make sure that everybody was very aware of how serious and dedicated he is to his beliefs, he did and said this.
You may notice I used the burst pistol there, which you get from a pre-order.
But don't worry, he defends his completely internally consistent beliefs by saying this.
Now, sometimes, to save me time, I will get a game pre-ordered so I can preload it, so I can play it, immediately at launch. But my way of winning that little thing is I'll pre-order it like a couple of hours before it goes live, so that I get it preloaded, get it downloaded and stuff, get some bonuses, but the publisher doesn't really get anything out of it. They can't, it's not part of their pre-order, it's too late.
It's not too late, Jim. You didn't win anything. The publisher is still getting every single thing that they need to get out of pre-ordering when you pre-order a few hours before the game launches. It still adds to the pre-order numbers. It still lets them make graphs. It still lends them to make their executive decisions to put the next game on pre-order because they know that people want to do that. Why do you think Call of Duty World War II was advertising on the PS4 its bonuses if you buy it one day early? Pre-order, it's the last day to pre-order. A lot of pre-orders are done the very last day. It still fully affects those numbers. There's only two ways that I can see you making this decision. One, you have absolutely no integrity and you do not care what opinions you held in the past, the opinions that helped grow your channel, or know so little about how pre-ordering actually works that you've just decided that your arbitrary rules of only pre-order a few hours early to get the goodies and have it pre-downloaded so you can get an early start somehow magically invalidates the fact that you did pre-order a game. But you know what? This isn't really the subject of the video. This was just a couple things that I'd noticed watching Jim Sterling's videos that I felt that it was a little necessary to point out before we begin, just so everybody knows the kind of person we're dealing with. We're dealing with a games journalist who very much values his journalistic integrity. I'm going to be showing the majority of my clips from two of his videos, the CommentHypocrisy on the Cuphead comments, and a video that he released called Zero Difficulty. Let's begin. Cuphead has led to reasonable insight from highly intelligent people who are not at all weird, smug creeps that crawl out of the woodwork every time a game marketed to them is hard. This compilation of Cuphead comments aren't at all sad, so let an 18th century aristocrat share them with you. Alright, fair enough. Clearly some smug sarcasm. I myself am known to occasionally dip into the pool of sarcasm, and who knows, maybe some of these comments are from people actually being smug creeps and not at all making valid logical arguments and or statements.
On with it. Yes, get on with it! Get on with it!
This is a real hardcore game!
Alright, I do suppose I would be remiss not to point out the silly costume. A lot of the people who responded to this video pointed out the costume and called it cringy or stupid, and you know what? It is. It's cringy and stupid, and honestly, I personally kind of find it hilarious. I actually like some of the videos in this series. In fact, the next one in the CommentHypocrisy series, the really weird dudes talking about women in gaming, that one's hilarious, and I actually agree with him. I kind of think it's a funny concept. I'm not gonna bash it. You do you, man. I think it's funny. Personally, I love over-the-top cringe comedy. But to the topic at hand, Cuphead is a hardcore game. It's made for hardcore players. Even in the simple mode, they had to cut content to accommodate for the fact that they just could not have made an easier mode. Even if they gave the players 15 HP, some of the actual stunts you have to pull off in that game are just so difficult that it wouldn't have mattered how much HP you had. If you weren't a skilled player, it wouldn't matter if you had 1 or 100. You couldn't have done it. It is a hardcore game for hardcore players. What's wrong with that?
Just like the old run-and-gun games for the Super Nintendo were. It is where it belongs. It has to be that hard!
He broke the cups. You didn't have to do that. That was silly. You're silly. But yeah, that was the intent. The intent was to make it like the old hardcore Nintendo run-and-gun games from the SNES era or the NES era. That was the developer's choice. That was how they wanted their game to function. It is supposed to be like that. See, the problem with the CommentHypocrisy format is you're just expecting everyone watching to agree with you and to know exactly why this is a bad thing. But why is that a bad thing? Why are you picking this comment to make fun of? It is exactly designed to be like that.
Adding easy mode will destroy the prestige and niche this game has. It's a game that's supposed to be hard.
Okay, while I might not necessarily agree that it would destroy the prestige, it would destroy the niche that the game has created. That is literally how niches work. A niche is something that appeals to a very specific group of people within an overall community, like, say, gaming. Exploitation films are a niche in movies, for example. Extremely hard, brutal games are a niche for video games. It would literally destroy the niche, no longer making it a hard game. That is how that works. And once again, it is a game that's supposed to be hard. But I don't know if I'm talking to a brick wall or not, because you didn't actually provide any explanation for why this stuff is bad. Why is it bad that the game was supposed to be hard? What was wrong with his comment? Oh wait, you've actually explained before exactly what you think is wrong with a gamer who has this mindset. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present one of his earlier videos?
You get to play any game you want in a way that makes you happy. Why the fuck aim to deprive others of the same? Probably because you're a prick. Sorry, but that's the blunt, short answer, mate. You're being a prick.
Before I respond to that, I'm also going to show his interpretation of people's defenses for why some people don't want easy modes in some games. Now, this is in relation to Dark Souls. This is also in the same video, Zero Difficulty.
The counter-arguments were that it would ruin the game and undo the point of it, which, again, isn't the problem for anybody playing it on the regular mode.
Now, in all fairness, this was sparked when Miyazaki himself said he was considering an easy mode. But if we take the exact same comments and apply them to Cuphead, the exact same defenses, the exact same arguments, the exact same retorts, no change. They are not talking about it missing the point of the game and the gameplay itself, but rather missing the point of the developer's vision. As I stated earlier, it is entirely okay for some developers to want to have a hardcore game to fill a niche spot. When he decides to call everybody a prick because some people don't want easy modes in games, he is missing the defense entirely. See, one of the biggest arguments for why a lot of people don't want easy modes forced into games is that it might damage the developer integrity. See, when the developer actually creates something, they generally have their actual vision in mind. They don't want to change their vision for people unless they're Ubisoft or EA. These other companies, like say FromSoft or the guys who made Cuphead, they had their their vision and they wanted to realize their vision, for others to tell them that they need an easy mode to appeal to more people is indirectly telling them that their game needs to conform to your playstyle. You should not be the one who has to do any of the work to get better to play their game. All the games should just be handed to you, and it doesn't matter what the developer themselves want.
What is so horrific about this idea that something exists in a game for somebody who isn't you? How selfish do you have to be to demand that a game caters to your desires and only to your desires, excluding anybody else?
Now, I understand that these are two separate videos, but they both deal with the exact same topic. And Jimmy Boy, Jim Jang, Flim Flam, Tin Kit, this is exactly what it sounds like you're doing when you're making fun of these people because they don't want Cuphead to have an easy mode. It literally sounds like you're mad because something in a game isn't for you or isn't accessible for people like you, people who aren't very good at video games. It sounds like you're doing exactly what you're mocking others about. Now, once again, I could be wrong, but because you provided no explanations to your teases in the CommentHypocrisy video, there's no way for us to be able to tell. Nostalgia Critic puts it best.
Explain!
Jim Sterling.
Explain!
I am Jim Sterling, voice of the people, the sanity of a generation. Millennials these days want everything to be accessible to everyone. Sorry, but there was no Wuspus mode back in the classic side-scrolling days.
Well, I do suppose his first comment was kind of debatable. I would lean more on the side that, yeah, millennials do kind of want everything to be accessible. I mean, I'll be completely self-aware enough to admit that I can be fairly entitled every now and then and do find myself occasionally going, well, I wish I had that. Why can't I have that? So his first point's debatable. We'll just leave it at that. But the second point, wuspus, it's actually true. There really wasn't a wuspus mode back in the day. Like, you had some easy games, and if you didn't like those, you didn't play them. If you wanted to see what was behind the tree, you got good enough to get past the enemies in front of the tree. If you wanted to know what was deeper in the slums, you got better. If you wanted to know what was actually past the sewers of Flan, you figured out the fucking way to handle that ridiculously impossible, stupidly overpowered ogre encounter that they threw in for level 1s. Fuck you, Pool of Radiance. Still have nightmares over that encounter. Where was I?
Cuphead has a simple mode that doesn't cut content. It's called Watching a Let's Play! Yep, watch a Let's Play! Watch a Let's Play! That's what YouTube and Let's Play are for!
How is he wrong? He didn't say anything wrong! If you can't get past a point in a game or you're not good enough to play it, you can watch a Let's Play and see what the game has to offer and still see the full storyline and still see all the bosses and still see the art design. That is a genuine substitute for it. Why are you making fun of the comment? It's a thing! Why do you assume they all think that they're the first to say it? Do you think that you're the first to say that every game should be accessible? Because that's a pretty common SJW talking point in video games. Like, that's nothing new. The newness of an argument does not detract from whether or not the argument is correct. If I think that I'm the very first person to ever say that the Earth revolves around the sun, it does not matter if I think I'm the first to say it, the last to say it, the 928,369,426,129th person in the entire existence of fucking history to say it. The argument is still valid. You cannot dismiss an argument by saying, oh, you think you're the first to say that because you do nothing but tongue trill. You get the joke because you just do a lot of tongue trills. That's your impersonation of an 18th century aristocrat. Tongue trills and a funny voice. Even if every single one of those people thought that they were the very first person to ever say it's okay for a game to be hard, the things that they've actually said are not illogical or wrong. I'm going to go ahead and read off a comment by you to follow up the next part, okay? This is the pinned comment on your video. I never said all games should appeal to everybody. I said games reaching more people is a good thing as opposed to a bad thing. If you're an absolutist, I realize this may be confusing, but there's actually a gulf of difference between what you think I said and what I actually said. Let's just go ahead and watch the next part.
You want to play a fun platformer with unique art style that can be made so easy it plays itself. The Mario games are there for you, sir.
Dude, that laugh totally blows. This is a video on Jim Sterling, so I'll kind of make a little homage to some of his more famous reviews and give it a 2 out of 10. You mentioned in the comment that you didn't say that all games needed an easy mode, but rather that it's better to have one, right? And yet you're mocking people who are in support of this game not having an easy mode because it fits their niche and is something that they want. So what you're basically doing is drawing an arbitrary line where Jim Sterling says, all right, this game is okay to not be accessible, but this game must be accessible. And if you defend artist integrity, and if you defend what the developers had in mind, then you defend the vision of the creators, well, that's just not good. You're an idiot. Let me make fun of you in this video. I'm just gonna go ahead and put your comment on blast, but not actually deconstruct it or talk about why it's stupid, and then basically just say that it's stupid because I have deemed this game is one of those games that need to have an easy mode and needs to be accessible. Not all, though. Not all. I will hold to that and pin it in my comment section. That not all. Hashtag not all games.
Tebs, please don't add a easy mode or any other crap that caters to folks that don't have the time to die a bunch of times or don't want to learn strategies. The game is perfect as is.
I have to ask, what if the developers themselves said that exact same comment? We don't want to cater to folks who don't have the time to learn or to die a bunch of times to learn strategies. We don't want to cater to those who won't play the game properly. We believe it is perfect as it is. Would you be openly mocking them in the exact same way because they have decided with their own integrity that they don't want the game played that way? Because you'll certainly attack others for holding the opinion that they don't want it to change. You'll attack others who value the developer's integrity. You'll attack others who value the integrity of the difficult game itself, who want the game to be hardcore. Because remember, you're Jim Sterling and your integrity means more than theirs.
I will not pre-order a video game unless there's an actual chance of it selling out.
You may notice I used the burst pistol there, which you get from a pre-order.
Either accept that the hard bits aren't present or that the game is hard. Can't have you cake and eat it.
Wait, but what's wrong with that, Jim? Why is that statement incorrect? They have an easy mode put into the game. It cuts some of the content because the only way that they could have put an easy mode in is by cutting the content or drastically changing the game itself. They would literally have to go in and redevelop entire sections of the game. I'm not sure if you know this, but developing an entire second difficulty level that's an entirely different fucking game than it is on a normal mode takes a lot of time and money. That was an indie game. They did put a simple mode in, but unfortunately the problem with that is that they had to cut content because the actual game is not simple. The mechanics do not lend themselves to an easy mode without drastically changing the fucking bosses. What did he say that was wrong there besides you pointing out that he said, can't have you cake and eat it too? Oh, I am 9 years old and find somebody forgetting to type an R at the end of their sentence to be ridiculous. You got him good, Jimmy boy. You got him good. Man, I went off on a tangent with that one.
If being able to fail in a game offends you, there is plenty of non-interactive mediums you can partake in instead. Royston! Royston! A hard video game came out and I'm good at it! I'm better than everybody else!
The commenter didn't say that. The commenter didn't even imply that. The commenter literally just said, if you don't like the fact that you can fail at a video game, go read a fucking book. What's the problem with that? That is not a false statement. Explain to me why that is a false statement. Jesus Christ!
I am Jim Sterling, voice of the people, the sanity of a generation.
Cuphead! I'm good at Cuphead, and other people aren't. Royston, rub my nipples for me! Rub my nipples!
Not one comment. Not one comment you showed even said anything close to that. Not one thing. And you know why? Because you couldn't find any comments that said something like that. Because nobody says that. Nobody thinks that. Nobody was typing that out. That wasn't anybody's argument. That wasn't anybody's defense. That was just fucking stupid. Most of the people that are defending this are literally just sticking up for fucking integrity, which I know you have so much of.
I will not pre-order a video game.
Which you get from a
And so, you know what, Jim Sterling? I'm going to go ahead and conclude this here for you, all right? If you're Sterling, I'm gold. I might have a fraction of your viewers, but you have a fraction of my integrity.
Son of a bitch!